What's up guys? So the Prophet 6 was released in 2015, so we've just passed the 5-year anniversary. As well, I bought my Prophet 6 in that very same year. So looking back on 5 years with the Prophet 6, how did it become a modern day classic seemingly the day it was released? And how did it change the synth landscape for all these years to come? So long story short, the Prophet 6 was showcased at NAMM 2015, and I was there for the release. I actually got to meet Dave Smith for the first time of many, and you could say I was sold on the 6 after this experience. Seeing Corey Henry and Nick Samurai jam was incredible, but it really goes to show you skill over gear any day. This release was particularly special because Yamaha actually returned the name Sequential to Dave, thus making the Prophet 6 the very first sequential instrument. Quick summary, in 1987, Sequential Circus went out of business and the assets were purchased by Yamaha. That included the name. So Takuya Nakata, president of Yamaha, gave the Sequential brand back. Igutaro Kakahashi, the founder of Roland, was said to have been instrumental in this, and quote said, "I feel that it's important to get rid of the unnecessary conflict among electronic music instrument companies." So at the NAMM release, Dave Smith stated that the Prophet 6 brought back the immediacy of the Prophet 5, and I totally agree. The biggest change people pointed out was surrounding the new oscillator design. Past Dave Smith synthesizers all used DCOs, or digitally controlled oscillators, while the new Prophet 6 actually sported a voltage controlled oscillator chip under the hood. A decent amount of people spent time rambling on about how bad the DCOs in the older models were in comparison to the Prophet 6, but realistically, different isn't better or worse, it's just that, different. I still own a Tempest and love the sound of it. Different tools for a different job. That said, the overall sound of the Prophet 6 to me more easily blends into a track when using large harmonies or heavy chords, so it's 100% a win in my book. Quick reminder guys, if you're enjoying the video, hit the subscribe button and enable notifications, and also click the like button. It really helps get the video out so more people can enjoy it. All right, back to the video. So yeah, after NAMM, I was hyped, but I did something really stupid. I maxed out my American Express card and opened a Guitar Center credit card on the spot just to cover the $3,000 price tag of the Prophet 6. Thankfully, I learned my lesson, and this became the last synthesizer I bought and actually kept for more than the purpose of bringing content to you guys. So I want to run down my favorite features on the 6 and what I find myself personally coming back to over and over. So no menu, and yes, this is my first and favorite thing about the Prophet 6. Well, it technically has 6 screens, but none of them have more than 3 characters total. It invites you to turn the knobs, to just mess around. I never spend any time diving through a menu, and so yeah, making music for me is all about being fluid and fast-paced to keep the inspiration. You can also press the preset button and it will destroy whatever patch you're working on, but it will put the synth into 100% NAMM mode. So what you'll see on the front panel is what you get. The sequencer is literally 2 buttons and 2 knobs, play and record, but I use it all the time to make quick jams on my own. You get 64 steps, it can be polyphonic, you get no overdubs. Are you seeing the stripped back approach to the synth yet? The way the sequencer always makes me feel is that I gotta make every note count. Weak chord progression can't be spiced up with more layers, so it makes the foundation of a quality harmony the priority. A single LFO. Yes, you're paying almost $3,000 for one LFO on the Prophet 6 when you can easily buy a Hydrosynth for roughly 46% or half the price and get 5 times as many LFOs. The question I ask myself though is why? The practicality of 5 depends on the person, but let's just say I can see the point of wanting the extra flexibility. But for me, I've never needed more than one LFO for the purpose of a polyphonic synth in a track, though that's kind of an overlap to the polymod section. So the polymod section uses oscillator 2 or the filter envelope, and you can use it to affect the pitch of oscillator 1 or the shape or the pulse width or the filter. It's really the least understood part of the Prophet 6 generally. That said, anything you do to oscillator 2 changes this section, so it's kind of a symbiotic relationship. The effects section on the Prophet 6 is probably what causes the most debate about it overall. I personally think that the effects section sounds great, especially the phasers, but I'm partial to phasers. So here's my thoughts on it. 4 knobs and 3 buttons to cover over a half dozen unique effects really isn't what I'd call enough to go in depth in any particular effect. Now that said, if you're like me, you'll use the Prophet 6 both in a gig scenario and in the studio. For that reason, half the time when a singer will ask you about an effect, they'll just say, turn it up or turn it down. Nothing specific. But when you're in the studio, you'll probably want the ultimate control and you'll want to match the effects on your other tracks with a plugin or a bus. So in that situation, it's simple for those of us. One of the 3 buttons is an off switch. So the filter is taken from the Pro 2. It is not the Curtis chip from the previous Dave Smith instrument, and it's also not an SSM from the Prophet 5. The Prophet 6's high pass is actually the high pass I use the most, and the filter sounds lovely to me, personally. But when I think about the Prophet 6, it's never purely about the sound. So excuse me if I don't make this more of a better subject. It's just, it sounds great, but so does the Rev 2. And that has seemingly more voices and more flexibility. So that's saying something about not just the sound, but the interface. What I've always liked and admired about Dave Smith is his passion to innovate and push the industry forward. In a time where people and companies are looking to the past to move products, Dave keeps looking to the future, even consistently and adamantly stating that the Prophet 6 is not a Prophet 5. He's not here to imitate or reissue, even though the 5 is his own creation. He said very frankly, I did it once, I'm not doing it again. That's kind of huge when he's sitting on a gold mine of intellectual property and nostalgia. After owning a Juno 106, a JX3P, a Tetra, and so many other analog polysynths, for me the Prophet 6 is perfect. This isn't a review, this is not an endorsement. I don't want you to go buy the Prophet 6 by any means. Don't go broke on account of this video. This is about finding the instrument that fits exactly what you want out of music. Not just the sound, but what you want out of the entire experience. The thing I loved more than anything about the Prophet 6 is what it lacks. The screen, the endless modulation. I'm a less is more guy. The synths you see on this channel, I buy and hopefully making these videos bring some entertainment for those of you who care to watch. But when I actually make music, I've used the same 4 pieces and a DAW I've had since 2015. I never ever thought of selling my Prophet 6 because instead of chasing the gear, I just made music, and the Prophet 6 is what brought more of that out of me. Is it a great synth? I think so, but you may think differently, and that's obviously okay. At the end of the day, whatever elevates your creativity is key, right? Anyways guys, let me know in the comment section what you've thought of the Prophet 6, if you've owned one for a while, or if you want to own one. Remember to like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. Thanks again for watching guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Seeing the Corey Henry and Nick Semrad and assets were produced, and the assets were produced. So Takuya Nakata. So Takuya gave the name Sequential. The brand sported, well, no menu diagram. So for me, that said, you do anything. So the filters from the Pro 2.